Months before someone died, a series of searches began appearing on a cell phone. No one saw them. No one reported them. No one imagined they were connected to a crime that had not yet happened. By the time investigators discovered that search history, it was already too late. Fairfax, Ohio, February 2nd, 2025. A 911 call. A house on Germania Street. And investigation that, from the very beginning, seemed to be pointing in the wrong direction. This is the story of how the truth eventually came to light and of the person who, without knowing it, became the key to finding it. Before talking about the crime, we need to talk about her. Because Denise was not just a name in a court file, she was a constant presence in the lives of the people who knew her. She walked to the library with her sister almost every day. She had lunch with her brother on weekends. She had plans to start a garden with her great niece. She had booked trips. She had dreamed of adopting a puppy. She was about to retire. Fairfax, Ohio, is a small community just north of Cincinnati. In places like that, everybody knows everybody. Denise was one of those people you know, simply because she is always there, in the neighborhood, at the library, in the everyday lives of the people around her. In the early morning hours of February 2nd, 2025, Denise was alone in her home on Germania Street. That would be her last night. It was her brother who found her. He entered the house, called her name, and found something no one should ever have to find. The 911 call came in that morning, on February 2nd, 2025. When officers from the Fairfax Police Department arrived at the scene, one thing became clear immediately. This had not been an accident. Sheila Denise Tenpenny had been killed inside her own home. The scene spoke of a struggle, of resistance, of someone who refused to give up. There was blood on the bed, there was blood on an electronic tablet, and there were cleaning products scattered throughout the house. Someone had tried to erase what they had done. They had not succeeded. The Hamilton County Coroner's Office conducted the autopsy. The conclusion was definitive. Trauma to the head and neck. Homicide. The formal investigation began that very same day. The investigators began where they always begin: family members, people close to the victim, individuals with access, knowledge, and possible motives. Every statement was examined. Every reaction was observed. Every contradiction was noted. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, the BCI, was called in to assist. From the very beginning, forensic specialists determined something important. The attacker was male and had likely suffered visible injuries during the crime. Possible cuts or bruises on the hands, wrists, forearms, or face. That information became the investigation's first filter. Days later, detectives expanded their search. They canvassed the neighborhood, spoke with residents, knocked on doors. That was when they arrived at the house directly across the street. A family preparing to move, stacked boxes, packed belongings, constant activity. Nothing seemed out of place. Until investigators noticed something on the face of one of the teenagers living there. Visible injuries. The explanation came immediately. A cat had attacked him days earlier. There were medical records, there were witnesses. There was no immediate reason to doubt the story, but the image stayed with the detectives. Those injuries could mean something, or they could mean nothing at all. At that moment, no one knew for certain. The samples collected at the scene were sent to the laboratories. Forensic analysts began examining every piece of evidence. And when the first results came back, a problem emerged that no one had anticipated. The primary persons of interest were identical twins. What seemed like a scientific advantage, DNA, suddenly became an obstacle. Two people with the same genetics, two people who shared the same biological profile. Science was not solving the case. Science was making it more complicated. The investigators could not allow that obstacle to stop them. They had to find another way. The detectives went back to the details. First, the watch. At the crime scene, there was a watch that did not belong to Denise. Second, the DNA. Under Denise's fingernails and on multiple surfaces throughout the house, investigators found genetic material that did not belong to the victim. Third, the search history. When investigators examined the electronic devices linked to the teenagers, they found something no one expected. Months before the crime, one of them had searched online for how to strangle a person, how to choose the perfect victim, how to avoid leaving evidence behind, how to get through a police interrogation. It was not one search, it was dozens, over a period of months. Fourth, social media communications. Investigators discovered messages sent after the crime to contacts across various platforms, messages that detectives later described in court as deeply disturbing. Each piece of evidence on its own could have had an explanation. Together, they did not. On February 27th, 2025, authorities arrested one of the 13-year-old brothers. That same day, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost and Fairfax Police Chief Jeffrey Bronson made the formal announcement. A 13-year-old boy had been taken into custody and charged in Hamilton County Juvenile Court. "My heart breaks for the victim's family," Attorney General Yost said in an official statement. The news spread throughout the entire community. Fairfax is a small town. Everyone knows everyone, and no one could understand how someone so young could have done something like this. During the court proceedings, details emerged that changed the way the case was understood. In the darkness of that early morning, Denise fought for her life. She left visible marks on her attacker. She preserved his genetic material beneath her fingernails. And she forced the person responsible to leave behind traces that would survive every attempt to erase them. Years of law enforcement experience encountered obstacles. Denise's resistance did not. Her brother-in-law said it in court with a clarity that needed no further explanation. She is the reason they caught him. When the teenager left Denise's house, he did not go into hiding. He did not call anyone for help. He showed no signs of remorse. Instead, he opened his social media accounts and sent a message to his contacts. According to investigators, one of those messages stood out to detectives in particular. This one was a fighter. Days later, as police began canvassing the neighborhood, gathering information, collecting samples, and asking questions, the teenager posted another message on social media. "I think I just got caught." David Ward, an agent with the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation who had spent more than 20 years investigating violent crimes, told the court something to come to define the tone of the case. "I have to say, this is the first time in my career that I've encountered someone this young committing this type of crime, and the level of premeditation involved is chilling to me." The legal proceedings continued for months within the juvenile justice system. The evidence was consolidated, the charges were reviewed, and on November 10th, 2025, 9 months after Denise's death, a resolution was finally reached. The teenager, who was 14 years old by then, pleaded guilty. 1 count of aggravated murder, 1 count of aggravated burglary, 1 count of strangulation. Hamilton County Judge Kari Bloom handed down the sentence. The defendant would remain in the Department of Youth Services until the age of 21. That is the maximum sentence the system can impose on a juvenile offender in Ohio. He would receive an education, cognitive behavioral therapy, and a victim awareness program. Denise's family did not want to look at the defendant's face in court. They wanted to remember only hers. The story of this case could be told in many different ways: as a crime with no apparent explanation, as a failure of a system that did not recognize what was happening until it was too late, as a warning about what certain corners of the internet can do to the mind of someone who is still developing. But it is also something else. It is the story of a woman who refused to give up, who fought until the very end, who, without ever knowing it, left behind the evidence that would lead to justice. And it is the story of investigators who, when genetics could not solve the case, kept searching, detail by detail, screen by screen, statement by statement, until the truth could no longer remain hidden. Because sometimes the difference between solving a case and losing it forever comes down to one thing: the ability to refuse to accept the first answer as the only possible one.